that it wouldn't be a vote, that Mr. Curtin would have the vote. And again, it's your right to pick who you want, but my concern was you made it appear that it was about the vote.
No, it's not about the vote at all. There's a spot in the charter for a township, for a planning commission, for school board. That is in the DDA charter.
Yes.
You already have a say. You already have a seat at the table.
And I'm not arguing that point. My concern was you made it in that meeting about the vote. And that was my concern. Because Mr. Curtin's a man of character, and I don't think that it should appear that he's being put on there for his vote.
No.
Put on there.
He filled out his citizen participation form back in February.
No, I am, Mr. Perkins, I'm not here to argue.
Okay.
I was just concerned with the way it went down. It could have been handled differently, and I was concerned that the way it made it look, because I've had several people come to me since that meeting and want to know what the vote was all about. So that's why I brought it up tonight.
Thank you.
Because I think you, Mr. Curtin, an apology, he wasn't there that night. I don't know if he's here tonight. But it's important that it's about the character of the man, not the vote.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment? Mr. Mishler?
Joe Mishler, 620 Academy Road. On September 10th at Lakeside Park from 1 to 4, the Holly Area Veterans Resource Center is holding a picnic for all veterans and their families. It's free.
What was that date again, sir?
September 10th, 1 to 4. And we are very grateful for several organizations in town, starting with the VFW, who made a donation to the project, the American Legion, and we received a grant from the Veterans Community Action Team, Region 10, which is part of the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. We also got help from the Moose and a couple of other organizations, and some private donations. So, any veterans and their families, come on out. We got a lot of games. We're going to do a lot of crazy things. We're going to give away free Tiger tickets for those of you who still go. We're also giving away we're giving away Renaissance Festival tickets. We're going to do a drawing, so we'd like to invite anybody who's a veteran and their family. Even if your veteran has passed away, come on out. We'd love to see you. I don't know what the menu is yet. The people in charge of that part of it, I don't know what they've decided. So come on out. Also, tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, Congressman Bishop will be here at the Holly Area Veterans Resource Center. He is going to be presenting the medals to a Vietnam veteran from Holly whose medals were lost. And they will be here tomorrow at 1 o'clock. You're welcome to attend. It should be pretty quick. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Sir? I didn't see Heidi over there.
Come be the short guy in the front.
Tony Engelberg, again, 115 Cogshell. I've been sitting back here steaming about a couple of things I heard earlier. There's no doubt at times I am one of Holly's biggest critics. Okay, I have a lot of things that at times I'm not happy with, and I'm not afraid to say it. But to hear people come into this room and say that Holly is not a caring community, and to say that Holly is a dying community, or to run it down in that sense, offends me to the core. I am someone who, at one time or another, has probably pissed off more than half of this town. But I know, probably more than that. But I know, based on the experiences that I've had here, that this is a forgiving community, and that people, at times, when things are tough, will come together regardless of any past discrepancies or problems, and to look at our businesses and to say that we are a community that is desperate to fill empty buildings. Sure, we've got a couple of industrial sites, no doubt about that. Our downtown is thriving, our midtown is improving, and even on our north end, we are seeing cleanup and growth. Everywhere you look in this village, there is positive growth and positive changes. So for people who are not from here or who I've never seen before, to come here and speak and hammer down on the work that many of you sitting up here tonight have had a strong hand in improving, it's just wrong and it's incorrect information, and that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else like to speak? Come on down.
Shauna Campbell, 4261 Grange Hill Road. I want to add something to what Tony said. 10 months ago, I lost my son, and a lot of you up here in the community have been so supportive and loving and caring, and have been there for me. And people that don't know this community, they should get to know it. Because once you get to know everybody in here, they are like a close-knit family. And without you guys, I wouldn't be surviving. I wouldn't get out of bed. Without my faith, I wouldn't get out of bed. But without you guys' support and caring this and asking me how I'm doing on a regular basis, I wouldn't be where I'm at and further along than what I would have been without you. And I appreciate you guys, and the compassion you guys have shown is amazing. So those who don't know and have come in from the outside world, they're sorely mistaken. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else, Mr. Wood? No? Oh, we'll close public comment. Move on to old business, of which we have none. That's new business. Consideration of council action request to enter into a 3-year contract with HydroCorp. Mr. Jefferson?
Yes, thank you. What you have before you actually is a two-part contract, or it's in 2 parts. One is for residential, the other is for commercial. This is from HydroCorp, and this is for our cross-connection and inspection program. This is something that we've been doing for a number of years. In fact, the village has been affiliated with HydroCorp since 2001. So this contract really is a renewal. The residential portion of the inspection and the follow-up is $7,668 per year. The commercial portion is $6,000 per year, for a total of $13,668. Those funds are budgeted through the water funds. Participation in this type of program is mandatory through the state, and as I said, we have been doing it for a number of years. This particular contract, as contracts in the past, is actually a 3-year contract. So we would ask for your approval for this 3-year contract. The total expenditure for this fiscal year would be $13,668.
What would we be inspecting?
So with each structure in the village that's connected to the village's water system, the systems are inspected to make sure that there's no backflow back into the system to protect against contamination of our water supply.
Any other questions? Roll call?
Motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make the motion
Moving ahead
that
too
we
fast.
enter into the 3-year contract with HydroCorp and allow Mr. Walker or President Perkins to authorize the paperwork.
Support.
Roll call?
Alsop.
Yes.
Kirkshank.
Yes.
Heiko.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes. On to item number 2, consideration of Teamsters Local 214 crew leader positions.
Thank you. Previously, council had approved the transition of DPW Director Brian Clausen to the Utilities Director position as current wastewater treatment plant Director Tim Stalkup claimed his retirement. Tim has finalized his retirement date, but certainly he's still here with us for almost the next year. We're very fortunate to have him here, not only for his past 40 plus years that he has served the village, but also for the next year or so that he's going to be assisting with the transition. As we talked about the transition of Director Clausen into the new position, we also talked about the need for group leader or crew leader positions, one being in the DPW and one being in the wastewater treatment plant. So while Director Clausen will assume the administrative responsibilities and be supervising both plants, it's necessary that he has a lead person in each plant, which currently does not exist. And so we see this as a need. We talked about this with council during budget study workshops. We also talked about this in previous council meetings. So through the process, we negotiated, as we talked with council, we negotiated with the Teamsters Union for these two positions. The two people who were selected for these positions would be Tom Kernan in the DPW and Kevin Durgan in the wastewater treatment plant. Currently, both of those individuals are at the top level of their pay grade where they're at. And so Mr. Kernan is currently a Class A operator. Mr. Durgan is currently a senior operator in the wastewater treatment plant. As you can see in the memo that I provided you, their hourly wage currently is $23.15. Proposed is that their hourly wage for this current year, if this is approved, will go to $25.23, roughly. And so that reflects a 9% differential between what they currently are making as Class A operator and senior water operator in this new position. And then in July of 2018, they would move from their pay rate of $25.23 to $25.98. And so that represents a 10% differential. And you might wonder where we came about those differentials at. Those differentials came from the exact same differential that the police sergeants have from the highest paid police officer. So all those individuals, the police sergeant, certainly when the police chief is not on duty, which he can't be 24 hours a day, the police sergeant then has that day-to-day operation supervision responsibility and accountability in the same manner that these two individuals would have that same accountability and supervision responsibilities. And so I laid out in the memo what the pay increases would be. I also left in the current, if council made no changes, what their salary, hourly salary would remain at. So consistent with prior discussions with council and transition as we see it occurring, I would ask for council to approve these two new crew leader positions along with the differentials.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
I'll make the motion that we approve these two differentials for 2017 of 9% and 2018 of 10% for an increase.
We have a second by Mr. Alsop. Can we have a roll call?
Kirkshank.
Yes.
Heupel.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 3, the consideration of approval of resolution 2017-028, confirming the village president's appointment of Ray D. Curtin to the Village of Holly Downtown Development Board. Ms. Musgrave, you put that down on the consent agenda.
Yes, I did. And Mr. Cullis has enlightened me a bit here. As far back as I can remember, and when I was on the DDA, we've always had the village, the township, having a supporting member there. Is that going to happen? I mean, is that going to Are we going to approve to have Mr. Collins put back on, or a representative of the township back on the DDA board?
Mr. Rossell, are you there? Could you come up here, please?
This goes back to Jesse, or I'm sorry, Jesse Lambert, Bill Smith, up until the time that he was not able to.
I just based my appointment on the fact that Mr. Curtin had filled out the paperwork. I had no idea that you guys had a precedent. You know, if you could address this, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, sure. Thank you for calling me up. When I came on the DDA board 5 years ago, Jesse Lambert was the township supervisor. He was also on the board. He was chairman of the board and a voting member. It was actually Jesse Lambert that got the township to opt in, and we changed the bylaws so that they would be eligible. And he was a very active member. When he left and then Dale Smith got elected, Dale came to a few meetings, and honestly he had a personal thing that he didn't want to be involved. So he opted out. But my personal feeling, nothing against Ray Curtin. I think Ray Curtin's a great guy. I do a lot of business with him. But I think somehow we're disenfranchising 12,000 people in the township if we don't put the township back on the board. I think, yeah, they aren't in the village, but they are a part of this community, and I think they ought to be represented.
But is it in our charter that the township is already represented as a liaison? And
Yes.
there's also a spot for a school board member and a spot for planning commission and...
That is true, but it doesn't preclude them being on as a voting member.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that it does. There is a spot there at the table already for him.
Right.
Okay.
With a voting capability?
No, just as a liaison. That's what I'm saying. Even that was always there. We can also add him in as a voting member.
My personal opinion, and I don't know Mr. Curtin at all, never met the man, other than when he spoke at our last meeting, but I feel that the township should have somebody in place on the DDA board to represent them. They're just as important as
I agree, and I think it ought to be a priority. As far as Mr. Curtin, I do know him. I talk to him almost every day, and I have no problems with if you were to put him into the next opening, great. But I think as soon as possible, the township ought to be added back to this board. And I'm not using George Cullis as a figurehead. I think whoever that representative is, I think that entity ought to be represented. That's my comment.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect opportunity to reintegrate the township and the village, and I think it was a mistake that Dale Smith removed himself from it.
It was. I tried to talk him out of it, and I very much think that he kind of sold out his constituency, but I don't want to get into politics.
I think at the very least, now that you have the history lesson of what has happened in the past, that you should reconsider your nomination. And I would
How does
actually
the rest of the board feel?
I would make a motion that we vacate the appointment of Ray Curtin to the Downtown Development Board until such a reconsideration can be made.
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
I thank you.
Go to reports, Mr. Manager.
So just real briefly, we have coming up this Saturday, our end of the summer blast, that is at Lakeside Park. It begins at 11 o'clock. All the public is welcome, as it is a fundraiser for our annual fireworks. So we've been pretty proud of the fact that we put on some outstanding fireworks displays, both on the 4th of July, but also most recently, the last couple of years, starting with Sesquicentennial in 2015, Holiday in 2016, and again Holiday on September the 16th of this year. Fireworks displays in the downtown where they're shot off from the police station, fire station parking lot with the historic water tower as a backdrop. So we would invite everybody to participate. There's a hot dog luncheon that goes along with the other activities. for $5. Holiday is September the 16th, and as I said, that is a springboard from the sesquicentennial. It actually starts early in the morning with a fun run, which is sponsored by the Coalition, followed by a parade by our own Miss Katie Hughes. So if you want to walk in the parade, make sure you get your applications in so that you can do that. And then, of course, this is a combined event along with the Parks Commission, with Community Play Day. Ending from Community Play Day, there will be some facility tours of the village facilities. So for those of you that have not been through the water plant, the police station, the fire station, and believe it or not, one of the most interesting tours you'll go on will be the wastewater treatment plant. And you probably won't believe it till you go in there, but just the technology that is involved and that Mr. Stalkup has developed for a village our size is fantastic. He's one of the leaders in the state in that area and has just done a fantastic job. And then, of course, ending that night, we have Nick Klemper running DJ services in the streets with a little street dance for the children. And those of you young at heart, Marlo, in Battle Alley. And then the food and beverage tent sponsored by the Moose. And the Moose has stepped up tremendously. They've always been a force in the community. They have partnered with us on this event for the last 3 years, and we're very thankful for that. And the only other thing that I have to report is at the last Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, the sign application for Dollar Tree was rejected because the sign that they had applied for was too large. In fact, the way it was laid out, it was double the size of what the ordinance allowed. And so the Zoning Board of Appeals opted not to approve their appeal request. Dollar Tree has submitted a revised application which complies with the ordinance, and that sign has been approved. So soon there'll be a sign on that building. And that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Mr. Attorney?
I don't know if anyone, if you can hear me.
Yes.
Two quick points. First of all, I took the deposition of Eric Bean in the Silverman lawsuit. Just looking at my calendar to confirm that, July 21st at 10 o'clock, I sat with Mr. Bean. He is an attorney for Mr. Silverman. You will recall Mr. Silverman repeatedly deferred to his attorney in his deposition to answer questions about assets and liabilities. I can't tell you it was very enlightening. What I learned seemed to simply confirm what appears to be the case, which is that there is all three of those corporate entities are heavily leveraged. They owe a good amount of money to Comerica, and they hold some properties, and those properties, if you will recall, I filed a notice of judgment lien to try to tie those up from being sold. So I think we have everything in place that we can and should be doing at this time to help guarantee payment. Secondly, I was asked by Mr. Walker to take enforcement action against a piece of property at Bevan Street. This particular parcel had the water service discontinued, not paying the bills. People were still living there. We have filed that action in the Oakland County Circuit Court. No court date is set yet. That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Bigger?
Nothing really this week, just been working on the pre-audit reports and trying to close out the fiscal year for 16-17.
All right. Mr. Clausen, do you have anything? Chief? Tony? Nothing? All right. We'll move on to Katie was shaking her head.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
Move on to historic.
The story in Kaya, I have nothing for, we haven't met since last.
All right. Parks.
We have a meeting next week, I think it is. We had a very successful Music in the Parks last Saturday. Appreciate everybody coming out to watch the North Oakland Dixieland Band. Everybody had a great time. So Marlo clapping in the front row here. Everybody did have a really good time. It was nice to see there was 40 or 50 people sitting around the park and having a good time on blankets, and it was a nice time. I hope more people come out to the music in the park events that we'll be holding monthly throughout the summer. And that's it.
ZBA, nothing? Plan?
Nothing since last week.
The community center meeting that was scheduled today was canceled.
Ms. Muscat, what was that?
Nothing for finance or personnel.
Do you have nothing new? Council comments? Start with you, Mr. Sheen.
I'd like to propose a moratorium for 1 year regarding the medical marijuana dispensary with, for a study.
You're making a motion?
Yeah, making a motion. I'd like to entertain a motion for that.
How many years?
For one, with the study, or for a study.
I second that.
Now, would we need a roll call on that, Tiffany?
Are we not going to discuss at that time?
Discuss what?
Yeah, general discussion around
General
this.
discussion.
Discuss.
It's in the handbook. I don't think we should be taking any action tonight, not even a moratorium vote on waiting. It's been clear tonight on public comment that we are split as a village. Half of the people came in are in favor, half came in are not in favor. It is our job as council, as elected officials, to study and make decisions. There's plenty of misinformation that goes out there, and it seems like everybody that comes up and makes a comment starts with, there's misinformation out there. Let me start with a few facts. 72% of the village in 2008 opted in to the medical marijuana law. There are grow houses today. They're probably your neighbors. There are dispensaries today. They are the caregivers who are growing in their basements. What we are discussing is making this commercial, bringing that out of the darkness and putting it into a retail location. I look at places like 400 Elm Street that have not been vacated in decades. I have no expectation that somebody will buy that property and turn it into a business anytime soon. It makes a perfect location for a grow house, for a rehab location, and putting it on the tax rolls and making our lives better for the neighbors that live around there.
The property's been purchased. These are everything.
There's plenty of places that would be opportunistic for things like that. I look at the retail locations that are next to Hungry Howie's and the auto mechanic facility that have been vacated for quite a long time, as long as I can remember. Does anyone know the largest growth sector of medical marijuana users? It's senior citizens. It's up by 200% in those states. The Supreme Court of Michigan stated that you cannot be fired for having a medical marijuana card. It is not the business of government to get involved with employee-employer relations. I don't think that should be something that's even brought up as a discussion point. The federally illegal portion of it, we have the Cole memo that was put out in 2012 that defunded the Attorney General from attacking states that have lawfully enacted medical marijuana and recreational marijuana laws. It's currently in the Senate to make that a permanent fixture. Now, one other thing. I've been personally attacked in the past few weeks. I've been accused of being high on council as I sit up here on this bench. It's disgusting. I've been called a pothead. I've been called a pro-pot rallier. It's disgusting the way that people have been attacking me recently, simply because I've only taken a side on an issue. Let's forget that the meetings now are streamed live for the entire village to see and anyone. Let's not forget that I got Hope Not handcuffs involved in the village where addicts can come in and turn themselves in. Let's not forget that I was the one on the Blight Task Force Committee that got ordinance changes to clean up the town. And I also got demoed waterworks which will be coming down before winter that has been on discussion for 25 years. My love for the village runs deep. My family is raised here. I bought stake in the community. I'm not leaving. I think we should allow some of these licenses. For us to dismiss it entirely is naive. Thank you.
Is there any other comment? Personally, I'm worried about it only from the aspect of liability issue. It currently being against federal law, a bank account can't be opened, and I would wonder, is the village liable? I mean, is there
I'm not opening this up for major debate or anything. I'm not debating anybody's character. What I'm saying is I think that Holly, as of now, as it stands, is not fully ready to be have a bullseye put on it because we need money. And I mean, I don't think Holly's fully ready for it. At this point, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, what have you. But as it stands now, because of the lack of the regulations, what have you, Holly's just not ready for it. And I'm not ready to stick my neck out and put Holly on that and have it on me.
And the other thing, Dave, I know you love what's going on with this drug thing, or this pot thing, but I don't want my name on anything if it kills one person. If I okay that, I won't live with myself. And I don't know why you're so turned on about this pot situation. Why?
Because
there's so
I
many
think
people in town, and I've talked to a lot of people, I see everybody. Why are you so turned on about this?
Because I think patients should have access. They should not have to drive an hour round trip to get whatever they need. And on top of that, we have the potential to get some revenue on it.
But it's going to make our town dirty.
That's a false, that's a lie. That's a
I mean,
complete
you guys,
lie.
you can laugh and do whatever you want, Dave.
I'm not lying about it.
I just think that,
Is Walt Lake a dump?
Is
Davison a dump?
Huh?
Is Davison a dirty town? Is Walt Lake a dirty town? Is Ann Arbor a dirty town? How about Brighton or Kalkaska?
Did you check in Gaylord and see what happened down there?
No. You cannot use today's statistics. We are not under the current medical marijuana law.
I do not care. This town, the people voted me and all you guys in, okay? I'm one person, you're one person, and we're gonna make the decision for the whole town because you want this?
No, because it's the right thing to do.
It's the wrong thing to do.
Well, one way or another, we're gonna make the decision.
I think at this time, I think it's wrong for right now. I think that in the current situation that we're in, without the concrete facts that of a town of our size, I just don't feel comfortable voting for it just yet. Maybe in a year, maybe 2 years. But
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that not having a vote is no different than not voting yes.
That's correct.
So if you made a motion. You did make a motion, and you supported it. And if we're done with discussion, we can do a roll call.
Yes.
I'd be happy to see where this goes.
Anyone further comment?
Personally, I am torn between, my biggest fear is the safety of the people here in our police department with the fact that they only have 2 part-time officers at night and we have 2 state policemen for however many acres. It's not the little guy that is going to get robbed. It's when they come in, it's going to be guns blazing. And to put an officer in that type of position, it scares me. And I spoke with the Chief Story about this too, for his take. And what he said makes perfect sense. But I also feel that there are people out there that do need the medical marijuana. Do I want a dispensary in downtown? No, I don't. We have children events down there. I do not want it. I would not want to see it down there. If it's in a different area, it depends. There's so many different yeses and nos and ifs. What ifs? We don't know. So I'm torn, honestly. Do I personally think marijuana is a gateway to heroin and that? No, I don't. I know people that smoke. None of them. I mean, they're executives. They're high up people. Doesn't mean they want to go out and do heroin. If somebody wants that, that's a psychological issue that needs to be dealt with. It's not because they're going to smoke a joint. It's because there's an issue that needs to be dealt with. Yes, kids will try things, but I'm just totally torn. But my biggest concern right now is the security and the safety of our officers and even the people around. You know, you don't know. I mean, you see it on TV all the time. People go in, they shoot places up, and they take out innocent bystanders. I don't know, maybe I'm being overly paranoid, but I don't have anything against medical marijuana, honestly.
I mean,
As do I. I don't have any.
But to put it up for a vote right now, I think is premature.
Yeah, I think we need to do,
We need some more.
we still need more research, more discussion.
We need more investigative research to determine exactly.
That's why I said for 1 year study.
But you're wanting, what happens if something comes up before a year? That we decide that yes it is, or no it's not. I mean, I don't feel it's right to put a time frame on it right now. I think it's premature. We don't know enough about it.
Ryan, I think in 1 year, the people are going to be voting. It will be on the ballot for a full legalization. We'll be having this discussion again. The
So
groups
why
that
can't we put it off until then?
well, that
We might.
the municipalities that are opting in now will have their zoning in place for when that happens. If we go to 2018 and it is passed, which there's no indication that it won't, they already have 200,000 signatures. They only need 50,000 more in like 40 days. They're going to get it on there. And then we're going to be having a discussion of, we're going to be doing this then and not now. So the whole point is to get our ordinances in line for all of that kind of stuff to come down the pipe. So we're going to do it now, or we're going to do it in 18 months.
Just like,
I think I think at least if we get our research and our discussions in now, and we can determine what we might want our ordinances to say if it does pass, so that we're at least prepared when and if it does, that we will have something in hand to act on, as opposed to scrambling at that point and saying, oh geez, what do we do now?
But we don't have to do anything.
No, we don't.
Get rid of it, don't have to do anything.
We can stick our head in the sand and pretend it's not coming.
Or maybe
If it doesn't, then great. If it doesn't, then great. If we don't vote on it, then we don't do it, then nothing changes. We still aren't in it. We still haven't opted in.
that's right.
Well, why do we even want it?
We don't know.
I mean,
I know you don't.
We
I know
get
that
it
you don't.
today.
You could.
And
You have the
motion,
votes.
I second.
And if the votes are there, then off it goes.
It's like that.
I'm on the side of I don't believe that this is the best thing for our village at all, but at least we should wait a year or more.
No, we're doing council comments, but thank you. Well, you have a motion on the floor. Do you wish to continue with your motion, or
Yes.
I second.
we'll take it for a roll call?
So wait, let's clarify the motion before we vote. This is Ryan's motion to stop discussions for a year.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, moratorium for 1 year for study purposes.
So that we have the next year to, as Mr. Rankin said, get our ducks in
We
a row.
don't do nothing with it for a year.
So a vote of yes means wait 1 year?
Yes.
We can't make any changes for a year. So in March, if we all decide we want it, we still can.
If something comes up.
Correct.
Musgrave,
No.
Rankin,
No.
Alsop,
Yes.
Cruikshank,
No.
Hypo,
Yes.
Shield,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes. Public comment. Members of the public can address council once recognized by the chair. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes. Council may extend this time by an additional 4 minutes by majority vote. Prior to addressing the council, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. Do we have any public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Lisa Clark, 602 South Broad. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to think about this some more.
We will have none of that.
Shut up.
That was terrible.
Thank you to each and every one of you for exercising some caution here.
Look at you.
If there's going to be any more of that, please leave the auditorium, or I will have you removed. Mr. Mishler?
I'd like to make a proposal for you to consider. And I'm trying to find the right word for this, and I'm not sure I can find it. I would suggest that you appoint an independent citizens committee to study this and to bring the information back to you. And that way, you could have a 7-member, 9-member, whatever member committee you want from all aspects of the community. You could have business people, you could have school people, you could have everyday people, you could have whatever. And put them on the word independent's not good, but a commission appointed by the council to study this issue and to bring back a recommendation within the next year, or maybe sooner. But I would think that might be a better way to go, and it might be, what's the word? It might be better publicly. And these people could hold public meetings. They could, hold, what do they call, town hall meetings. They could do that kind of stuff, and then they could go out and do research. They could come back and present to you whatever kind of options. Now, I don't know if you're interested in that sort of thing. It just seems to me that it would take it would kind of put the pressure someplace else, and maybe bring out some different ideas. Because right now, tonight, it's pretty tense in here. And I don't like people booing other people. I didn't boo anybody that's on the other side. But I do think an independent committee, a commission appointed by you, might just be the way to go.
I like the idea.
Thank you.
Lori Lacey, 818 East Maple. And what I noticed tonight, I want to thank the board, but I noticed tonight there was no mention of any environmental effects. You know, with growing, I think they use butane for the drying. Okay, some of them I have
No banter.
Some of them I have heard do use butane. That's just some of them. All right, that's what I mean. We need facts. We need statistics.
Yes, we do.
So this, I'm glad that we put it off until we can get all of the facts. And, the water, what do they do with the waste? These are things that are environmental, and that was not even brought up, and that's for roads or any of the other things. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good point, Laura.
Pat Feeney, 210 Franklin, on a different subject. As it goes for the DDA, all consideration, I'm not turning this into a personality thing. It's the way I look at the DDA is that the DDA is a business organization that retains tax within the DDA area. I believe that it should be business people that are in the district should be the ones that vote on what happens with the DDA. I do believe there is a place for other community leaders to be advised and have some input on it. Now for that bit that, it's interesting that I hear up here that township residents have been disenfranchised. Well, geez, it's been over, my understanding, almost 2 years since Mr. Smith resigned from it, and nobody on the council seemed to have taken much interest in approaching or telling the board, hey, look, you got somebody you want on here? And I find it rather interesting that all due respect to Mr. Cullis, and I'm on the board with him as a trustee, I do believe Mr. Cullis is on quite a few committees and different things in the village and in the township. I believe that we really should not be limiting who we have involved in these different areas, including DDA. I would rather see maybe another large resident on there before maybe as a voting member. But as it goes, but my real concern is that we're going to be putting members on there who do not pay into the DDA, who are not business owners in the DDA. I know Mr. Cullis is a business owner, but I'm speaking of in the future, you could have a supervisor or anybody from the township who has no business connection whatsoever. And quite frankly, I've yet to hear anybody in the township have any real problem with our, lack of representation as a voting member on the DDA. Matter of fact, when we spoke to people on Grange Hall Road that are in business, concerning your issue about the 425 and the question about being extended as being part of the DDA district, they were very much opposed to that. They weren't interested. So I really think it should be business people, there should be the voting members on there. I understand that's a DDA concern, but I also think it should be a concern of the village council that you maintain it as a business oriented. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I just want to bring up your answer. Part of the state regulation in order to ascertain a license is that the applicant has to provide not only a business plan, but an environmental blueprint on how all of those issues are going to be handled, and it has to be at the level that the state is requiring. So that is part of having a license, or applying for a license.
Excuse me, where are you from?
I represent a family that lives in Holly that wants to open a growing facility, medical growing facility.
What's your name and address?
I'm Adrienne Grant. I live in Grand Blanc.
Thank you. Any other further? Yes, sir.
My name is Tim Seidler. I live at 17475 Buckhorn Lake Road. I am a provisionary center worker. Like this lady, a lot of this is going to be dictated by the state. I'm also on the committee to write the Thetford Township ordinance, and we are talking about opting in. A lot of the ordinances, like you guys are put, the questions you're asking, the distances, how many are you going to allow, all those can be addressed by you guys. I understand Holly is a small area. I know out in Thetford, they have it in a 2-mile square area, is where we're going to get it rezoned. They have us away from everything. Luckily, we are in an area to where we're not downtown like you guys are set up. For the patients that we have, 90% of my patients are 60 and over. I do not have kids that come in that are 18, 21 years old looking to get high. The get high days are not here no more. I lost my first child due to an experimental drug called ribavirin interferon through the University of Michigan Hospital. Lost my child. I know Tony up here personally. I've coached youth football through Holly School. I coach youth basketball through the river. I believe in this community. I support this community. My neighbor daughter was executed last year, jogger. I see the outreach that you guys have done with your community in one. this medical marijuana, it's not a stigma that we're wanting to get high, we just want access. And I don't know if you guys know, there's 215,000 registered patients in the state of Michigan, 35,000 caregivers. Maybe 50% of those caregivers can grow medical marijuana. There's a difference between medical and your plain marijuana. So to take this out and start for a year, the information is out there for you guys. I have no problem giving you the information. I can give you our ordinance effort that we're going over right now. So that way you're not being blindsided. You can have the information, you can have it right now, I can give it to you tomorrow. It's something you guys can look at, but tabling it, that's what Lara did. I was at the meeting on Monday, the director of Lara. Sergeant Bailey, retired, came out and said this all needs to be shut down by September 15th. That was tabled. They said they're not going to do that. They're going to wait until October 12th. So I suggest you guys should have tried to table it. Obviously, it's done and over with, but tabling it is something you could have went further with getting more information. Just to shut it out because you don't feel that it's in your right area, it's sad. For law enforcement, you know the heroin overdoses that have happened all the time. I was a paramedic for Swartz Ambulance. I've seen it firsthand. You know it, I know it. What to do, well, the point is, because we want more police officers, that's what those dispensaries do. We put in a collective in our ordinance to pay for more 24-hour security. We have 2 officers that'll be on and 1 that'll be monitoring it with the drone service. So that's already in play in our little 2 area square mile. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Regarding the letters that were delivered or sent that you read, I was wondering how they were sent to you. Were they post office? Were they
No, email.
emails?
Yeah,
Just emails?
they're going to get forwarded over for a recording.
And most of us got the same emails that you
Oh, you got the same?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comments?
Back here, that was Marlo Davids, I'm sure was recorded.
Bring it on down. Sorry, I can't see that far without my glasses on. It is.
Hi again. My name is Josh Kirby. I live at 203 Grand Street, Howard, Michigan. I want to personally say thanks for postponing this for a year. Hopefully, maybe next year we'll have more information to maybe it'll be a better idea then. But for now, so hopefully this is a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
This is a good kid. Do we have any other public comment? Come on down.
Joe Hutchins, 419 Thomas Street. First of all, whether you do nothing or not, up or down, it's still against the federal law. We're more or less wasting our time here because it's going to be mandated to us by the feds and the state. And by doing nothing like everybody else is doing, it's sending a message to Lansing and DC. Do your job. If we're going to use this for a drug, it should fall under USDA guidelines and everything else. They should be studying this to find out what's real and what's Memorex. Why are we spinning our wheels and spending our money? Because it's going to be mandated. They're going to say, you will do this. It'll be an unfunded mandate like we usually get stuck with. We'll be stuck with the bill. So let them get off their butts and do their job. Because they're the ones that are elected to look out for us and guide us as a community. So like I say, let the feds do their job. By not doing anything, send a bigger message to them. Because well, nobody's doing nothing. We got to do it now because all we're doing is dividing our community, the pros and cons. That's all it does. It makes an issue of it. It's not an issue. It's a drug. Well, let the USDA, like the EPA and the DEQ, supposed to do their job. Thank you, Flint. That was their fault, not the people's fault. Let's not let this be our fault, what we do here. Let the feds, let it fall on the feds in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Again, Tony Engelberg, 115 Cog Show. I'll be brief. First of all, I'd like to apologize for yelling at those folks. Ms. Clark was up here trying to speak, and the booing and the F-bombs that were being hurled down did not sit well with me. So I think Ms. Clark should have been able to speak without being heckled, or just as those of us who were not on the side of that issue did not boo and heckle those who came here to speak on behalf of marijuana. I'd like to thank Mr. Shield for having the courage to make his motion, and I'd like to thank all of you, even those of you who didn't vote with him, that I believe now will take the time to do what is right for our community. One thing on that subject, and it was brought up with the water and whatnot, these grow houses, now I understand 400 Elm is a possible site, does sit on a lake, and so possibly with DEQ and EPA approval, siphon water to the facility. But for grow houses to tap into our village water system, which is an aging system, and put more pressure on that system, I think we do need to do some research to make sure that our system can handle that, because if it breaks down prematurely, it's going to be all of us that end up having to pay for it. And we've certainly got enough fiascos with our water. One other subject completely off, the lighted signage that's going on up and down Saginaw now. Some of them are flashing and brightly. And I don't know, because I haven't been on planning for the last few months, what changed with the ordinance as far as that stuff goes, but I think we do maybe need to look at the wattage and brightness level that these signs are allowed to have, especially if they're going to be pulsating and changing colors and flashing as people are driving up and down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other further? Any more public comment?
Things first, lakes are off limit. I don't know where.
Adrian.
Yeah.
Every time you come up, you can give your name.
Adrian. Right.
And address council.
Okay. I represent a family that is here in the village of Holly, and Groveland Township, and Rose Township. The environmental responsibility for any grow facility, medical grow facility, is the responsibility of the actual facility. We're not going to be able to tap in or let the water siphon it out of the lake. If you understand the science of actually growing a medical marijuana plant, you would know that the water needs to have 0 parts per million. Clearly, a lake is definitely thousands upon thousands of parts that is just not usable water. But I also want to bring up that there are 2 cases right now, one in Oregon and one in Colorado, where organizations have tried to cite federal law to go against growing facilities. They're ongoing cases. You can look them up online. I don't have my information, so I can cite the case. But both cases where tremendously the amount of the case was thrown out at the federal level per state, because a medical marijuana state is protected by what the state laws are. So, albeit it is very true that on a federal level that it is not legal, we have an issue with the banking systems, and perhaps, our president isn't going to pursue it any further so that it can happen. It is legal at state level. And so therefore, we can argue the semantics of it, but it is being challenged in states right now, and it is, the states are prevailing. So we're not responsible for that. It depends on how our legislation is going to protect the cannabis industry. We don't know what that's going to be yet in the state, clearly, because we have representatives that are being elected. We have re-elections, and we don't know where that's going to be. But I can assure you that at a state level, whatever the legalities are, we are protected by that, and that the federal government choosing to come in and try to challenge that has not been quite as successful as what everybody seems to think. So look up the 2 cases. They're easy to find.
Thank you. Come on down.